What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Awoken Voices. We are here with Issiah
Hasso.
Yes. We're going to open in a prayer. Jimmy, anybody who watched the last episode, y'all know Jimmy. Jimmy wrote a prayer for me. He'll say he didn't wrote it. He'll say God wrote it, but he wrote it for us to start with. So we're going to be starting all our interviews and our solo episodes with it. So in the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Oh, Heavenly Father, we come to you this day with hearts filled with gratitude and humility. We bless and worship you. We can do nothing without you. All things are possible with you. We humbly ask that your Holy Spirit fill our hearts and our mouths with your word, that we may inspire those listening to glorify you in all ways. In your most magnificent and exalted name we pray, Father without beginning, only begotten the Son, and your all holy and life-giving Spirit. Amen. Isn't that beautiful? He always writes the most...
He wrote that?
Yeah.
Did you write that for this one?
He wrote that. I'm going to do that for all of my episodes now, but he's always writing these beautiful prayers.
He's the other one, because he texts me just about every morning.
Yeah. He's always writing them. So a little intro about you. Issiah, like I said, born here in San Antonio, Pleasanton area, 1995.
Oh, yeah.
So you've lived in Washington State, Michigan, Mississippi, Tennessee. We'll talk a little bit about the movement there. I forgot to write that down. You graduated from UTSA in 2018 with a degree in accounting. You're a big fan of heavy metal and video games,
yes,
arts and entertainment, and Bibles and a Bible and books, which we're going to get into your gift here.
Oh.
I am just putting them in bags because I don't want anybody to see them, but I'm just going to be reusing the same bag every episode. So if you see it, that's why. We're going to start small.
Is there more than one gift?
We'll see. So we have a icon here of the Harrowing of Hades.
I like that you got me that one, to be honest.
Yeah, it's a small one, but I figure, it's one of those ones you can put in your car, you can put it on your wall. It's really one you can put in your house. I use command strips for most of mine just because I don't like putting nails everywhere, and I like to rearrange them all the time. Or I'm constantly giving them away to people. So I just like to put them on command strips, easier to deal with. Next one I got you. You are married. We'll get into that a little bit more. And you're expecting. Congratulations.
Yes.
When's the due date?
November 19th.
November 19th. Have y'all picked a name yet? If y'all see me looking this way, she's sitting over here. Have y'all picked a name yet?
Ruth Alexandria Hasso.
Wow, Ruth Alexandria. That's beautiful.
Ruth is, obviously it's biblical, but it's the first verse we shared. I asked her to send me a verse. We were texting, and she opened the Bible, and it was out of Ruth. And
wow.
And then my middle name is Alexander.
Oh, okay.
So originally it was Alexandria Ruth, but then we switched it.
That's beautiful. Well, we have St. John Chrysostom's on marriage and family life. Great book. I read it. There's some sections on finding a spouse, but you've already gotten that far. So there's other parts about marriage life, about raising a family. About
I've seen this.
Some of the ways to raise children. It's not that long, but it's a great book. Anybody who's thinking of starting a family or that you're called to familial life, it's a must-read book. Another one I think you're going to really like. It's by Josiah Trenum. I don't know if you know who he is.
Yeah, I've watched quite a bit of his
He's
stuff.
a great writer, honestly, and I enjoyed this book. I think anybody who you want to kind of explain to why your Protestant friends as to why they're a little screwed or shrewd, give them this book. But it's going to be the rock and sand orthodox appraisal of the Protestant reforms and their teachings.
I'm very grateful for this. I watched the thing of his, I think yesterday, and he mentioned that he wrote this.
It's a great book. It really is put in plain terms. It's not super hard to understand. It's got pictures. It's super big, so it's in big print. It's just all around it's just all around a great book.
I appreciate you very much.
Of course.
For these are actually very solid gifts.
Well, and you said you love books. I give icons to pretty much everybody who comes, even if it's a small one. No matter what, some form of icon I give them. So I wanted to do the icon, but I know you said you love books, so I wanted to get you some of the different books that I think you would find interesting. And we'll get into it. You love apologetics.
Yes.
And you love the debate kind of, I get the feeling of. And so I think you'll enjoy that book because that'll help refine a lot of your debate.
Yeah.
And I know you love history, and so that also goes into the history of every single one of the Protestant movements. It talks about John Calvin,
Yeah.
his history, talks about Zwingli, everybody. So I think you'll really enjoy that one. And then the family life, I mean, you may not enjoy what it tells you, but you'll get a lot out of it.
I mean, there is a humility that needs to come. I mean, if you want a godly family, a successful family in terms of like sticking together type of family, it definitely comes. I mean, since meeting my wife, you know, it was like humbling overnight. I was like, okay, I need to focus more. I need to be more on top of my finances. I need to, you know, save my money. I need to, you know, be home.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Different type of things. So there was a humility in meeting her and then dating, and of course, I want to.
How long were y'all dating before you were married?
Not long. We met in December, and we're December 9th, and we got married March 21st.
Wow, yeah, so 2 months. My parents got married 3 months, so, and you know, they're going on 20 or so years, so it can work.
It can work.
Sometimes you just know. That's beautiful, though. And now y'all are expecting.
Yes.
So we're going to hope that goes well. I'm sure it will for little Ruth. So let's get into your early life a little bit. Tell me a little bit about growing up. Tell me a little bit about, were you raised in a Christian household? Some of those kinds of things. What's your earliest memory? Let's start with that.
Earliest memory, that specific question is being in the hospital. I think when my brother was born, I think going to the hospital. I just remember being at a hospital downtown. But I was born at Santa Rosa downtown. I couldn't tell you where we lived necessarily, but I just remember Pleasanton.
Yeah.
And then for some years, and then no, I'm lying. We lived at a trailer park at City Base. My stepfather just told me. My brother's father. And then kindergarten, in the middle of kindergarten, we moved up to Washington. My mother had a boyfriend who was in the Navy, and we had to move up there. And I finished kindergarten, did first grade, and then we came back to Pleasanton. And I did second grade through fourth grade in Pleasanton. Mm-hmm. And then my mother got involved with her boss at the time. He was older. It was an 18-year gap.
Oh, wow.
But he was a project manager.
Mm-hmm.
He was the project manager for car painting departments.
Okay.
So how the cars go through the thing and they get painted, he
Yeah.
was a project manager for those. So he would be a part of the constructing of those.
Yeah.
And so about every 2 years he would move. And so he was in San Antonio for that project, and then he had to move up to Michigan. But he was from Detroit, so he had a house.
Michigan has a big car manufacturer, so it makes sense.
But he already had a house up there.
Yeah.
From like his previous marriage and stuff like that. So we moved up there. So we lived in Michigan. That was a 2 years. So I did fifth grade and sixth grade up there, and then we moved down to Mississippi. The project was done up there, so we moved down there, and we were in Mississippi for 8 years. Or I was in Mississippi for 8 years. That was seventh grade through my sophomore year in college.
Yeah.
We were in Tennessee for about 6 months, my 10th grade year. That's too long of a story, but we moved there and then moved back. And then in 2016, my brother graduated high school over there in Mississippi, mm-hmm. and he got accepted into A&M. And so my mom and my little sister were going to move too. And I didn't have to move. They were like, you don't have to move, but we're going to move.
Yeah.
And they're like, if you move, you'll get a car. Because we had cars.
Yeah.
I didn't, we had cars, but I wasn't allowed to have it at school. But because we're moving to San Antonio, it's a bigger city. Yeah. My mom was going to give me the car. So I was like, all right. But it was also like coming home. I always missed San Antonio. I love Texas. Nothing compares to San Antonio. I missed my tacos. I missed my Tex-Mex. So I was glad to move back.
What was that like, though, growing up? I mean, you're moving to so many different places. It's probably hard to keep friends. What was that like?
Well, I want to say the younger years, you don't really notice. I think it's easier to make friends when you're younger.
Yeah.
You just kind of whatever.
There's less judgment.
Yeah. But wasn't too excited to move to Mississippi. Moving to Michigan, when my mom met Jeff, he made good money. My mom, she was a hard worker, so we was always food on the table. There was always Christmas presents, but we weren't rich. It was definitely roaches and geckos going on.
Yeah.
But with Jeff, once she met Jeff and got involved, I mean, I like to say he took us out the ghetto. Like, it was a whole new lifestyle. It was a whole new kind of suburban lifestyle, Disney World. We traveled with Gatlinburg, Tennessee. Like, we drove to California. Like, we did a lot.
You're traveling.
He ended up passing my freshman year from cancer. But while he was alive, he really. I remember I texted my mom after he passed. I was like, he really upgraded our life. Really took care of us. He was older, obviously, because he was older. He was the older school, so it was about putting food on the table.
Did you know your biological father much? So was he more of a father to you than any of the other people, or was there somebody else that you looked up to more as a father?
It was the longest stretch of a father figure. I have to kind of divulge some stuff. So my mother and my brother's dad, they were together probably 3 years, maybe like 4, but then they split. And so we'd go visit like on weekends or every other weekend. I liked going over there because he had video games. So it was more laid back, video games and TV. So he was like my favorite parent, and then mom was like strict or whatever. But he wasn't a bad dad, of course. And then Jeff, I kind of forgot the question. What was the question?
What was it like with the different father figures? Like, would you consider more of a father figure to you than elsewhere? Because you said your biological dad wasn't involved. You never knew him, so.
I guess now that you're asking me that question, I think about it. I guess most father figure would be my grandfather. My mother's, he's not my mother's biological father, but he's the only grandfather I know. He was in way before I was born. And he was definitely probably the most father figure. Like, I watched, he worked for FedEx for 20-something years, driving trucks, and before that it was another like truck driving business for like 20 years. He was a hard worker, and playing food on the table, and loved my grandmother. They're still together. It's probably, since the maybe late 80s, early 90s they've been together. And they're still like, they're a bit, I won't say they're like the most godly couple, but marriage wise, at least when it comes to sticking together, and they're still like best friends.
That's good.
They're adorable. When we moved back, I lived with them for about 2 years, and I could hear them laughing with each other and cracking jokes, and that was like a bit inspiring. And so, to answer your question, it would probably be my grandpa Jerry, who is most father figure.
Sure.
It's a bit different now being a Christian. Now it's God in heaven.
Yeah.
I have kind of detached myself a bit from like father figures, especially pretty much none of the adult males in my life are necessarily Christ-centered individuals.
Other than Jimmy.
But we don't. I guess we're closer now. But I guess before.
But I was gonna say, you only have known Jimmy for a couple months now. So
but we text or talk pretty often, Jimmy and I, almost every day. But I guess, before him, or before Saint Sophia, before Orthodoxy, not necessarily any. But I kind of, like I said, like my stepfather, my brother's dad, who I was living with, he took me off the street. Yeah. Which I'm forever grateful for, and helped me out, and etc. But like when it comes to like the Christian part, there was only so much. He definitely had a low max for Jesus, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it happens. So you have on here your family wasn't super religious growing up. There was you told me on the phone that there was Christ and there was church, but there wasn't really like it wasn't like a centered thing.
Well, it was God more than Christ. So when I just remember going to maybe mass like twice when I was young. Being in a Hispanic family, Catholicism is the majority of the situation. And I remember we'd say grace sometimes.
Thanksgiving and things like that.
I still remember that. But then once we started moving, church pretty much stopped until we went to Michigan. We started going to church. I felt like it was like a Methodist church. But I didn't know. We just went to church.
Yeah, you didn't know that. You don't really understand at a young age of what the denominations are. You're just kind of like, it's church.
And so I went to a few church camps, and it was fun, but it's not like godly. You're just
most of the time church camps aren't really about God. They're more so just about having fun, and they just are trying to build a community of the kids, so that when they get older, they stay in the community. That's really the hope.
And then down in Mississippi, we were with a church called Pine Lake for several years. And I was involved with the youth group. I went to a few camps, maybe a few weekend things, a few lock-ins. But it was more about friends, like there were cool people there. But there was a period, actually in Michigan, I read Genesis and maybe Exodus. I remember in high school praying a few times, but we got baptized, and my mother, my brother, my brother, and I.
Were you baptized in a Catholic church?
No, it was Pine Lake.
Oh.
It was.
So you'll probably have to be rebaptized when you become a full.
Well, I was talking to Dale about it, and he was talking about as long as it was in the name of the Father, Son. And so I called them, and they sent me a letterhead.
The church did?
Yeah.
Really?
So like Dale said that needs to be done in order, like has to be an official
Yeah,
letter.
because you have to have a document that specifically says. Well, and there's a debate we can get into later about centered around baptism. So I'm kind of interested in what your thought is there. Because if you read the Didache, they're very strict on what is considered a righteous baptism and what's not. And so there is argument from some people that say, well, it's not a valid baptism if it wasn't this, that, and the other. We'll get into that.
I have a Didache if you want me to pull out and read it.
We can read that when I get to it. I'm going to put it in the second, once we get to the second part. I'll probably start with that once we get into the apologetic parts. I have so we'll have your life story, and then we have a little bit of some of like what we talked about, some of your interests are that I think your opinions would be interesting on. So let's go back into, see, it's kind of like a non-denominationalism.
Yeah, I want to say it was that, it wasn't like traditional.
What were your thoughts at the time? I mean, are you really thinking very deeply about it? Is there any like theology thoughts? Or is it just like, this is just church, whatever?
It was the youth group, the youth part, that was fun. I mean, girls and, homies, and sorry, man. But so that was like, it was like kind of fun. But yeah, Sunday mornings was boring. That was... Like I would literally, try to sit away from my mother and like do this and then try to sleep because it was I didn't like standing during the music. I only cared so much about what the pastor was talking about. It would be cold. I mean, for me, it was like everything wrong or everything that a young man doesn't want to be involved in.
Yeah. Well, what was that like going on? I mean, leading into your adult life, non-denominationalism, and we'll get into that, finding orthodoxy too, but that kind of comes a little later. But what was that like? I mean, do you think that had an effect? Like, was it harder, do you think, for you to come into orthodoxy to understand it with that non-denominational baptism? Or was it just like, because you didn't really care anyway, it was just kind of like,
Well, I'll go back. So I remember, this was when we were in Tennessee, and I think we went to church one time while we were there for those 6 months. We went back to Pine Lake. Mm-hmm. But I was on YouTube, and this is an issue with no internet supervision. There was this guy. I used to watch a lot of gaming videos. Yeah. Especially like around the time Modern Warfare 3 came out, I would watch like stuff like that. And
the Rad Brad.
Yes, and Wings of Redemption. You know him? So I watched. He had a video. It was two videos, and one of them they were both about religion. I don't remember what they were called, but basically he was like, dinosaurs aren't in the Bible. You need to just.
They actually are.
They actually are, which is hilarious. He said some stuff. He was like, religion doesn't matter. He was like, it's best to just understand that you're just a little speck in the universe, like you're minuscule, something like that.
Such a depressing way to think.
But I took that and I ran with it. Like that was pretty much, I was gone. I was done.
It's easy.
For whatever that dinosaurs aren't in the Bible thing, that had...
Crazy argument, though.
That held on to me for, I guess, 10 years. Like I was agnostic. I couldn't do atheist. That felt like too much, too far. Yeah. Too blasphemous, I guess. But agnostic, it's that more, I don't really know, I need proof. And that's kind of
that easy middle ground.
And so if I think about it, say this on the phone with people, it was like, if you had God, that's fine. You know what I'm saying? Whatever gets you through the day. Yeah, I was like, God is a negative. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Can be if you use it the wrong way, but.
And then I was involved with an artist. And then sometimes we would pray before big shows, or at least I would stand in the thing. But I remember I just felt like I was doing everything myself, and I was a hard worker. And when I was in school, I was involved, and like I was busy, and it was like sun up, sun down, like I was really like hustling, trying to make something of myself, whatever. So I just felt like I don't need God, and God isn't with me. I'm doing this all by myself. So I
Yeah.
had that for the longest. And then I had a bit of a drastic conversion. Things just got darker and darker. But I knew I needed God. I got to a point I knew I needed God. I started saying things like blessings or blessing or I'm blessed or something like that. I would say thank goodness. I couldn't say thank God, but I would start saying like thank goodness. Like I started to get more spiritual, and I started thinking about spirituality. And so I started. I guess I had an idea of God. I started inviting God in my life. I want to say I prayed a couple times. Then I ended up.
Did you know what you were praying to?
Well, God. But what I get eventually when I was in jail. I knew, so like a couple months before jail, I was like, I probably would never read the Bible unless I went to jail. And then fast forward, I've ended up in jail.
Well, God,
God
uses it. God takes what you say seriously.
And what's funny is now my thoughts, I watch them because I'm like, I don't want to test God. You know what I mean? But
it's like, oh, okay.
Yeah. And so on my way into jail, I was like, I'm gonna have to find a Bible in there. And so I was flipping through Matthew, and I read. And I didn't know what I was reading. Or I was flipping through the Bible. You're reading it, but I didn't really know.
I know what you're going to say. We'll get into that in a bit.
Okay.
Because I actually have exactly what I saw you pointing.
Yeah.
I have it written down here. Because I want to talk about that a little later. Because I have it structured in a way that gives us a story. But we will touch back on that jail experience. Actually, not very long. So you had this fall away from Christ. Kind of into agnosticism. You were dinosaurs aren't in the Bible.
Yeah. I will say, sorry, not to. I remember I was watching this. So this was as things were getting darker though, and I was like pursuing spirituality, or whatever. I watched The Thing. It was this guy. I think his name is 13 Keys. He's more like it's like I guess you could say New Age. I didn't know what New Age was then, and I wasn't looking for it. But
yeah,
I just knew he was a popular like slightly spiritual guy, or whatever. But I remember he said something like blah blah blah, and people always give credit to Jesus. And I was like, that doesn't feel right. I didn't feel right. That kind of dig he did at Jesus, that didn't feel right.
Yeah.
And then somebody else once, they were like, where does Jesus come from? Like, and this was someone who I thought was a Christian, and they were saying these things, and I was like, that doesn't feel right. And so it seemed like I had this connection to Christ. Looking back, it was like I had this connection to Christ, which is why this kind of the Matthew 10:34 experience was so big for me. Because it was like he was always right there, and we were always connected, even though I didn't know it. And so it was like I was looking for God / inviting God, and I got Jesus, who is God. But it was like, Christ says the Father draws men unto Himself. No one goes to the Father but through me. So it was kind of like that kind of spirit, that kind of path that He says in the Gospels. It was like kind of like that for me. That no one knows the Father except the Son, and except who the Son reveals Him. It's basically been like that.
Yeah.
So it was a drastic change, and I noticed a lot of my Christian people I knew, or people who used to talk God. Once I got with Jesus, our relationship, some people say, oh, once you become a Christian, you'll lose all your friends because now you're like. For me, I had bigger issues with the people who I thought were Christians, people who used to talk God. Because now I was talking Jesus, but they knew God. They knew church. They knew whatever they grew up, whatever grandma told them. They weren't Bible experts. They weren't reading the Bible. They just knew God. They had an idea. But I'm coming with Christ. You know what I'm saying? Who was a much more narrow thing.
Yeah.
And so that's just been an experience. And I learned the difference between God, the idea, and the kind of the surface level God.
Yeah.
And I heard a preaching once where he said, it's very easy to see God. It's very difficult to see Jesus. And I would agree.
Yeah, it is. But I actually like. Do you know who said that?
His name is Prophet Lovey. He's an African dude out of California. He's from Africa. He's out of California. He's definitely not Orthodox. I sent you, remember that clip I sent you where it says advice?
Yeah.
That was the first thing I watched of his.
Really?
And that was like,
a
big change.
Okay, I know who you're talking about now.
It definitely changed my walk with Christ. It evolved it.
Yeah. So you end up going into college. You had described it as the wild college years.
Yeah, that's pretty.
So And that kind of blends into your 10 years of rock. But we'll talk about those kind of blend together. But let's talk about let's start with rock. So how did that happen? And then what came of that?
Well, I kind of grew up rock music. My brother's dad, he like introduced like AC/DC, Metallica. I always liked that stuff. And then in high school, I heard a Slipknot song, and it was awesome. And I was when I was in middle school, I was huge Guns N' Roses. I have Guns N' Roses tattooed on my back. They were like, I had like a Guns N' Roses shrine. Like I was in band, and I had a drum pad, like a practice pad, and I drew the logo on like in Sharpie red, and I drew the guns, like all, and I would like go back over it to make sure it stayed like fresh. I had posters, like I was obsessed. That's all I wanted to talk about at school. I was like, "You like Guns N' Roses?" Like it was weird. I mean, that's how idols.
You're a super fan.
Idols get you. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then like Slipknot, it got heavier a bit, and then I just started getting like heavier stuff, Gojira and Five Finger Death Punch. I liked it. I liked the aggression, and I always felt like I've always had like temper issues and stuff like that. I used to hurt my brother, throw things, break things. But I always felt like listening to the aggressive music, it kind of would take it. I don't know if
output it.
Yeah, it was like it always felt
it's
like
an outlet.
The music would take the aggression away. So instead of me acting on the aggression, I just listen to this music. I'm like, and it's just like, all right, I feel better now.
Yeah.
The issue, because I do believe that music affects you. For me, in my old life, what started affecting me was rap, and the more like I was obsessed with Rick Ross, and I got obsessed with like selling coke and just that kind of lifestyle, that gangster stuff. Like I started to go in that direction, but that is I'll definitely make a testament to music.
Yeah, I can tell you a story. There was we had a kid. I won't say his name, but if he's anybody watching who knows me, probably knows him. Went to school together, went to middle school together, the last part of elementary together, and then the first part of high school together. His parents sadly passed away when he was in 4th grade, both of them. His mom died in a car crash. A couple months later, his dad OD'd, and he was the one who went and found him, just on the couch, dead. Terrible, terrible story. And, I mean, how do you deal with that at that age? But he goes on. He's got $200K waiting for him with a life insurance policy the second he turns 18.
Wow.
Ruins it.
Yeah.
He starts getting into drugs. He's listening to rap music. I mean, this might sound crazy, but he didn't want white friends.
Yeah.
He wanted black friends.
Was he was a Caucasian dude?
Oh, yeah. He was white. Whiter than me. He wanted black friends. He wanted the Hispanic friends that were more cholo. Those are the crowd he started hanging around. Well, his grandparents didn't want to correct that because they felt like they didn't want to discipline him too hard because I guess they felt bad for him. Understandable. But because nobody ever gave him that discipline, he just went further and further. Yeah. And the music that he was listening to was always F this, F that, sell drug, smoke weed, and that's exactly where he went.
Yeah.
To this day, now he blew all that money, got a girl pregnant, had to have an abortion at 17. I'm like, goodness, bro. Yeah. If I had $200K waiting for me, I'm not doing any of that. First thing I'm doing is paying for college. I'm going to like SAC and then UTSA cheap, and then investing a bunch of that, and then getting myself an apartment and a cheap little car to start off with. Like starting your life off with $200K is like a gold mine.
Yeah.
And to just blow all that because of the music you're listening to and because of the environment that you decide to put yourself in, inspired by that music. Like you said, to say music doesn't have like power over your direction of your life is crazy. Yeah,
it definitely. I had to stop because I mean I do watch. I try to watch what I consume nowadays. I'm not like the most Christian-y. I'm not only faith-based movies, but I had to stop listening to like girl rap because it's very sexual and explicit. And in my old life, that was my thing. But now I'm like, it makes me want to watch things I don't need to be watching and stuff. So I was like, that's something I really watch. What I try not to watch too much fun stuff on TV.
Yeah, I think once I heard a song about a wet something, I was like, this is like drawing the line of what I eat. Like this went number one. Okay, this is clearly
my old life was it was that. I mean, just Megan Thee Stallion club stuff. But now, like I said, I'm not like that anymore. So I stay away from that type of thing.
So you alluded you were in a band.
No, I was in band.
Oh, okay.
Not just marching band, but school band.
And then you're saying before you did shows that y'all would pray.
So I was involved with artists, and there was an artist that I was involved with for about 4 years. We just met at a show, and I just liked his vibe and his music, and so we worked together. I was his manager. At first I was like the #1 fan, and then I became his manager, and then manager and DJ, and things fell apart. But we were together, Paul, for about 4 years. And did a lot. We performed South Padre, Atlanta, just a bunch of different stuff. Houston, Dallas.
Is he widely known, or is he more underground?
Not widely known. I will say that we had a very intense falling out, a very public within the San Antonio scene.
Really?
And there was some stuff. I can't say everything on camera, but there's some stuff. And so yeah, we definitely parted ways far. And but I will say that his career is definitely not what it would be if we had stuck together. Because I've checked in. I'm a bit more forgiving now, being a Christian. So I've checked in, but I can see that if we had stuck together, we would have. I mean, everything happens for a reason, right? God clearly did want me in that lifestyle anyway, and there was nowhere to. It was just more darkness ahead, right? I wanted to be like P. Diddy, not the fun stuff, but like that Puff Daddy kind of thing. That's what that DJ Khaled. Where you're just like a cultural guy.
Dre.
It's not. So it wasn't just about doing anyone. Like I didn't just want to be a DJ. I didn't just want to be an artist manager. I wanted to just be
in the scene,
in the culture, right?
Yeah.
So I would do events where there'd be like food and clothing, and I would DJ, and there'd be artists. There'd be all that stuff kind of going on. But that was my dream. I had put it on hold because I was going broke and all that type of stuff. So I couldn't do it, but I had to sell my DJ stuff and all that. But that was the plan until Jesus gave me a different plan.
So we'll cut back into college. So how did that go with college? I mean, you're partying, you're in the nightlife kind of scene, and during your college years, how was that? I mean, how did you get through college?
I always took school. I took my school serious.
That's good.
I was in school I didn't make the greatest grades ever. Like my first semester was like I think right under a 3. So there was that kind of initial college kind of whatever.
I think that's most everybody.
But I was on a dean's list my sophomore year, both semesters. Like I think I graduated like a 3.3, 3.4.
Okay.
But for me, you go to college to learn and get a degree. Like I didn't, what I'm saying. I definitely skipped class. I definitely failed tests. But for the most part, like I did take my schooling serious. Like I wasn't in school to mess around.
Yeah.
But I joined a fraternity my second semester freshman year, and that it introduced a certain lifestyle, but it also matured me kind of overnight because all of a sudden there's meetings, and I joined the fraternity for everything, not just the fun, but also the business and the networking. So I took it serious. Like I went to meetings. I had a few positions. Like I gave some presentations. It's stuff like that. Like I was like vice president at one point. Like so I took it serious. There was definitely partying on the side, but it was at first. I want to say the first 2 years it was definitely regular / consistent, but it wasn't all the time, the partying.
Yeah.
But coming out of school, so I was starting to kind of move away from my fraternity / I was also graduating college. So I was like, I need to evolve out of the college scene. I'm not going to, that whole like 30-year-old guy still hanging around college people is kind of lame. I didn't want to do that. So I got more involved in the city nightlife, promoting and parties in the club and DJs, and then it evolved. And so things started to get crazier and crazier, and I got involved with artists and started managing artists and doing shows and putting on events. So like I said, I wanted my hand in everything. I wanted to be a part of everything. I wanted a piece of everything. So I wanted to be involved with artists and art. So I enjoyed art. Like I went to a couple art shows and I bought some art. Like I just loved that whole thing. So it wasn't just parties and drugs. There was also some cultural stuff in it that I enjoyed. What
kind of art do you like?
I couldn't. Well, it's different now. At that time, it was definitely more the darker stuff, especially being into like heavy metal.
You should see all the ones we have up there. My dad and I. Well, that's my side. I did all those. And my dad did all the ones facing this way and this wall. But I did all those, and I have some dark paintings. I'll have to show you some. I have like one of like my interpretation of a biblically accurate angel.
Mm.
But
it's freaky.
It's not very detailed,
Yeah.
but like you're like, what am I looking at?
Yeah.
But it's accurate. Yeah, I very much like darker art.
I try to now.
Or I did, at least.
Now, I'm not so much. I used to love things. I loved getting new. Like I had a pretty decorated apartment, and I enjoy getting new things and art. Now it's different. I'm not so much into that. You know, what Christ says. You know, store not treasures up that'll get moths and dust and the robbers. So I really try to keep my buying of things and material things to a minimum. Back then it was more darker stuff. I remember I had this big painting, probably like almost 6 feet. I went to an art show and it was like $80, but it was like, it looked kind of like a Lord of the Rings tower, maybe the top, and then it kind of like dripped, but it looked.
I gotta show you. I have similar, but they're.
It looked kind of demonic, and so I was like into that.
Mine is less demonic. Mine is like, I did 2 eyes, and one is all these pastel oil paintings that I just kind of blended to make it look like an eye. You can see an eye, and then the other one is like super bright watercolor, but it's another eye that's significantly larger. But I let all the watercolor drip. I purposely used too much water.
Yeah. And
it dripped. And so it's very like it looks like you're looking at an acid trip is really what they look like. But it's, I liked that style for a while. I still kind of do. But I less enjoy seeing it and more enjoy making it is my thing. Like I can't tell you, I really don't look at any of those paintings because if I stare at them for long enough, I'm like, gosh, I'm a terrible artist. I'm like making all these mistakes in my art. I can't look at my art. It's terrible. So what, Matthew 10:34, what is that?
It says, "Think not that I came to send peace on earth, for I came not to send peace but a sword." And that, it was like, what's funny is I feel like in the moment, it felt smaller than when I look back at now when I look back at that moment, it was like the biggest moment of my life.
What moment was that?
Just reading that.
Oh, yeah.
Because that was when I was in jail. And I never thought of Jesus that way. It was all just from what I heard about Jesus. He just seemed like hippie, kind of make love, not war. And I wasn't like that. And so when I read that I came not to bring peace but a sword, I was like, that's the most gangster thing I've ever heard. I didn't know Jesus was a gangster. And so I was in. You know what I mean?
Jesus kind of was maybe this is blasphemous to say, but he really was a gangster.
Yeah,
when you read
like as big as his biggest gangster there ever was.
Stuff he was saying, he was like, "Oh, you can go ahead and give Caesar what's Caesar's, but you give God what's God's."
Yeah. And I mean, I guess where I was coming out of the gangster life.
Yeah.
So that was like that was what you were trying to
language.
The language was like, I feel like it was the language I needed to hear. Now after that, the gangster stuff stopped. But yeah, I was like immediately connected with Christ, but and for one, it was through Scripture. So I've always connected with the Bible. I don't understand how people can't read the Bible because I've had people tell like, I admire how you read the Bible. I can't do it. I'm like, I don't understand how you can't do it. Like,
yeah,
I don't get it. But there was a period. So from that moment, probably for like 3 months, I was reading the Bible, but I was just reading it. And I would write verses down. I'd memorize some of them. Some of them were powerful for sure. But I feel like
Is Matthew 10:34 your favorite verse? Would you say, or what's your favorite?
Yes,
okay.
Pretty much any new Bible I get, or a lot of my Bibles, I'll highlight it, just so it just reminds me, just like as a reminder. But I got more concerned with church and the Bible, and like being a Christian. I had to kind of come back to Christ Himself, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So there's jail, and I was still reading the Bible.
How long were you in jail?
It wasn't that long. It was 2 weeks, and then I was out for like a week and a half, and then I was back in for a week. Yeah. Do you want do you want all the details?
Let's talk about business and accounting first, and then we'll go into that. Let's get a light note. So you went originally in for business, right?
Yes, it was general business for I want to say the first semester. Then I changed to entrepreneurship. But my dream was always, I feel like I still wanted to do it, is I always wanted an arcade go-kart mini golf place. That I still kind of do. But what's funny? But I remember when I lived in Mississippi, it was a small town. It wasn't like run down country town, but it was just smaller. There wasn't a lot to do.
Yeah.
And then the closest like arcade place was like 30 minutes away. So that kind of like I was like that's what I want to do. And so yeah, it was general business. Then it was entrepreneurship. And then my sophomore year, I had an intro to accounting class, and I liked it so far. And probably like 2 months in, a CPA, certified public accountant, came in, and he was just giving a presentation. And he was like, you can be a CPA, but you can also do all these other things. He was like, this person's a CPA and they do this. And he was like, there's somebody else who's a bodybuilder and a CPA, and it was our teacher. He showed a picture of a guy like in the Speedo bodybuilder, and it was our teacher, and it was so funny. But I remember I was like, you know what?
Mr. Olympia.
I was like, I think that's what I'm gonna do. So I changed my
the bodybuilding or the accounting?
The Speedo. Oh, no, but no. He's
like, I actually brought one with me in case you.
I have it on under here.
Yeah.
But once I was like, I could be an accountant and do other things, and I also like this accounting class so far, so I changed it to accounting.
Yeah.
And I always enjoyed my accounting classes. The side classes not so much. I wasn't like the greatest student. I mean, I didn't make like straight A's, but I did enjoy them.
Yeah.
I did relatively well in my classes. I enjoyed the homework.
Yeah. So, in the meantime, you get married. Is that correct? Before this?
Yeah.
That didn't work out, and then so tell us a little bit about the jail experience. What you want to talk about, basically. We can leave out what you don't want to talk about, but.
Well, I went for assault, and I was in there for 2 weeks. I got bailed out. They gave me a deal, but I didn't want to take it.
What was the deal?
It was what are they called?
Plea deal?
No, well, yeah, but there's guys in there. I forget what they're called.
The court-appointed attorney? Or
No. I'm talking about inmates that have a role. Well, regardless, they clean things. They come in and clean the toilets and serve in the kitchen. I forgot what they're called. But the deal was like, if you be one of those, you could be out.
Yeah, you can get shorter.
And I was like, nah. I was like, I don't want to be a slave.
Yeah.
Now looking back, I was so dumb. I should have humbled myself. But I wasn't as Christ-like as I am now. Now I realized it was an easy out. It was God given. All you got to do is humble yourself and be a servant, and you'll be right out. But I didn't want to do that. So I got bailed out for Christmas and for New Year's. But I didn't have a place to do probation in case you have to have a home and a job, or usually to get probation. I didn't have somewhere to stay, and I didn't want to force myself on anybody. So I was like, I'll just serve the time, whatever the time is. And so the deal was, if I could go back in, and either it was going to be like 17 days or a month and a half. So I was like, that's fine. I'll just do that. And I had a hearing about a weekend, and they said I had done enough. And plus, from what I hear, Bexar County is overpopulated, so they kind of just try to get some people out. So mine was, yeah.
I know most of the judges. I was telling you worked in politics. I know most of the judges. They're pretty. Now there is one. Did you ever go into court?
No, it was No, I'm lying. The first time I got arrested years ago.
Who was your judge?
I couldn't tell you.
Was she black? Was she a black woman?
So.
Okay. So. There is a black woman who's a judge, and she's like known for being so tough. It's like she has something to prove. No, she's the worst judge you can get. If you're like,
to God, no. My first time, I want to say it was a Mexican lady, and then it was a dude the second time.
A dude in Bexar County?
Yeah.
This had to have been.
I couldn't tell you his name.
What year was that? That had to have been.
That was 20.
That couldn't have been in the 20s.
The end of 2022.
Really? Since 2023, I know we don't have any male judges in Bexar County. We have all female. And they're all Democrat, every single one of them. I don't think judges should run based on parties. I think that's crazy. But anyway, so you do your time there, and tell us a little bit. What was it like being in jail? What was that like?
Well, I was in a med. It's called a pod. So it was like just a big room. It's like a big dorm. because I had got cut, so I couldn't be in because my arm still doesn't work 100%, and it was even less than I had a big old cast on, so I couldn't be in. It's called the annex, which is like Gen Pop.
Yeah.
And so I couldn't be in there. So I put me in a medical one, which was like people who had like certain conditions, and some guy was on a walker. So it was pretty chill.
And what are you in jail for if you have a walker is what I want to know.
You said what?
Like, what can you be in jail for with a walker? Like,
I forget what it was, but...
he stole something. How did he get away? What did he think was going to happen?
It wasn't because he was older, but it was because he had something wrong with his leg. But that was like the pod. I want to say it was third.
Did he think he was going to get away? I
want to say it was probably max 40 people, like 40 beds in that room.
Yeah.
It was in the basement of the jail. And it was not the worst experience. To be honest, it actually took away my fear of jail. So when it comes to when it comes to
camp is nothing.
Yeah, when it comes to the possibility of going to jail for Jesus, that doesn't scare me.
Well, but jail is a lot different than prison. You got to remember that.
Yeah, but no.
Although minimum security prison is basically just jail.
Yeah. But I also I still had 2 sleeves of tattoos at that time, so I kind of.
You fit in.
My grandfather told me I looked like a convict, and now my hands and my face are done, so I'm less scared of it. I do have to be mindful of myself and my temper and my self-control because I'm not afraid to go back. I could act out in ways that will send me back, and of course that would be, there would be a burden on the mother of my child and my family if I were to go back. It would be definitely
let's not go back.
It would definitely be backstepping.
Yeah.
But it would the food was better than I thought it was
really
gonna be. And then they had.
I've heard it's basically just hospital food.
It was that's a good way to put it. The hospital that I was at when I was at BAMC, their food was awesome. They had like steaks and burgers, and you could get pizza.
I know they used to do some hospitals when you give birth, you have a steak dinner that they bring in to you. So, but that's not everywhere. So you have to get 2 of them. Do y'all know what hospital you're going to for the delivery?
Methodist is Stone Oak, so more than likely no steak. Sorry.
Yeah, I would avoid Methodist. Yeah. I'll tell you more about that when we're not on camera because I don't want to be sued for defamation. But they can go ahead and try to sue me because I have evidence that they completely mishandled the situation. But
I don't know.
Yeah, avoid Methodist.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, avoid Methodist.
Let the record show I don't know. Jesus, I don't know.
No, so do you want to talk about why you were in there? Or do we want to just...
It was assault. I don't want to go. Yeah,
we can move on.
That's for off camera.
Yeah. Well, so that was rock bottom for you?
No, to be honest.
Really?
Because I felt like there was a plan. And so jail was not rock bottom. The plan...
If jail was not rock bottom, what was?
Well, no, it's because for one, I knew I was there. I deserved to be there for sure. Yeah. So there wasn't... it was... and I mean, it was kind of to be expected, like the way things were going. It wasn't God get me out of this. If you do, I never do. Like it wasn't that. And like I said, it wasn't as bad as I thought. And I had a plan. I don't want to get into the details of the plan, but there was a plan.
That you had or God had, you mean?
Myself and another individual, we had a plan. Now the plan falling through and me ending up at the homeless shelter, that was rock bottom. With like my family abandoned, like they knew I was there, they didn't want to come help, like nobody really, I just kind of got left at the shelter. That was rock bottom.
Do you want to talk about the plan?
Well, I was counting on somebody.
I see.
To kind of help me out when I got out, and they didn't. Yeah.
It happens to a lot of people. They get out and then they can't get a job because who wants to hire somebody who's just in jail and then...
Well, no, that's what's interesting. No, the job part wasn't. I had a job, pretty much. Well, not when I got out, but not too long. A gentleman from the church I was going to at the time, it was a Baptist church. He sent me to Taco Cabana. He was like, I know the guy, the manager there, the GM. You just go through a little interview and he'll hire you. This was before like face tattoos and stuff. And so I went, I interviewed me. I didn't have my birth certificate at the time. He was like, but I had my license. He was like, you just get your birth certificate and I'll hire you. But I wasn't ready to go back into the world yet. I wasn't ready for a job. I wasn't ready for certain temptations that just come with being out.
Yeah.
And so I went into a discipleship program, a men's home. So I went from the shelter to the men's home. That's a whole other, the whole new chapter.
How long were you homeless?
Almost a year. So it was about 2 months at the shelter and then 6 months in the men's homes. And I want to say I moved in with my stepfather October of 2023. So almost a year.
What was that like? I mean, what were you seeing? What was that?
I cannot describe the feeling of wandering the streets at night. Nobody cares about you. It is a crushing, depressing feeling. What's interesting is I cried plenty throughout that time. But it didn't really hit me at what I went through until I moved in with my stepfather. It's because when I was homeless and in the men's home, I didn't have time to really be sad. I definitely was sad, but I gotta get a job, or I at least I gotta go to church, I gotta get my birth certificate, I gotta do these things. And in the shelter, they have programs to help you get back on your feet. And so I was like, I'm gonna do these programs, I'm gonna go to these classes or whatever. That stopped once I went into the men's homes. But even in the men's homes, like I was studying, like I you know what I'm saying? I was going. I didn't want to be that guy who just sits in his sorrow, right? I mean, there was sad, and it was definitely a roller coaster. But once I moved in with my stepfather, I now had a bed and a shower in my own room. That's when I was like, wow, I really just went through something. That's when it kind of hit. I didn't like cry or get depressed, but I want to say I definitely.
So your family knew you were in the homeless shelter, and they didn't.
They were fed up with. I mean, it was my downhill journey. It was loud. It involved other people. Like police went to my grandfather's house, so I had to move out. So when like the cutting happened and jail, like I went to see my grandfather when I was at the shelter. We ate there, or I would take a shower.
Yeah.
But yeah, he would drive me back, or I'd take the bus back to the shelter. Like my mother.
Kind of like tough love.
Yeah. I wouldn't call it love.
Well,
for sure.
Sometimes love doesn't come in the way that you think it does, but I could be wrong. Why do you say that?
Because there was space for me. Mm-hmm. I understand for sure they didn't trust me. They didn't trust my romantic situation to not continue and still affect other people, so they didn't want me around.
Yeah.
But I knew myself. Plus, I was like Christian now, or at least I was evolving into a Christian. I knew I was leaving that old stuff behind. I knew I just wanted to get back on my feet. I just wanted to get things back together. So I knew I wasn't gonna do it. Like if I lived with my grandfather or my mother, I wasn't gonna do anything. But they didn't trust me. So yeah, it was like, yeah.
Yeah. So what?
But I did. Sorry, not to ramble, but I did learn pretty much that whole year. I learned from God that to only count on Him, that I can only count on Him, that I can always count on Him, that He looked out for me time and time again. Even in the men's homes, even at the shelter, I could definitely see how God's hand was on me.
Yeah.
I got food stamps really easily, and when I was in the men's homes, like I was like pretty much the only one with food stamps. So I could always eat, and I was able to bless, the home with different things. I would get water and stuff like that. I had a close friend of mine who she would send me things, groceries, shave, razors. But I noticed like other guys, they didn't really have this thing going on.
Did you get close with any of the guys in there?
Yeah, because I'll go back and visit. I haven't in a while, but I've gone back. Like I've taken her back, and I visit because I'm appreciative of some of the individuals. I did build like Christian, relationships with some of the folks. I appreciate some of the leaders who did help. It wasn't all, every day wasn't bad, every minute wasn't bad. It was a very intense journey, but it was.
What kind of things were you witnessing in the men's
Well, it was more so, it was like,
or just on the streets. I mean, what was?
I mean, you just see a lot of. I didn't see any like level 10 crazy stuff. I didn't see like anybody like having sex or anything. But you just know everybody's on drugs, and you folks are on meth, and some people would be loud and get kicked out. And
were you ever scared? I mean, of what?
Nah, I didn't really. I mean, I was older, and I was a recent gangster, so and I wasn't at that. I was
You thought you were the danger.
not necessarily. I just wasn't necessarily scared. Like speaking of, there was a one at the shelter. There was this one time where there was a line coming in, and then I was going out, but it just kind of got a little hectic in the door. Just a lot of people, and this dude was like, "Y'all get the F out of the way." You know what I'm saying? He's like, these dumb kids or whatever. He wasn't older. He was probably older than me, but he wasn't like old. And so I poured my Gatorade on him, and he gets ready to fight, and they stopped him, and they kicked me out for a couple hours, but like, so I wasn't scared, but
What made you pour Gatorade on him?
I didn't like how he was talking about it. And then I was like, because at least with me, just in that little moment, I wasn't like trying to be in the way. When there's that many people and it's just two doors and things just just get tight. And so he was just being dumb. I just wanted to teach him a lesson. I don't condone that.
I just want to know what the reasoning was.
God is our avenger. You know what I mean? I wouldn't do it now, but yeah. So I really wasn't scared. Plus, you don't have time to be scared. You're in there. It's not like jail, but it's just like kind of like jail. You can't be scared.
Yeah.
You have to be on point.
Were you ever scared at some point you weren't going to get out of that? That was going to be your life now? That was just what it was?
Well, I knew. I knew the shelter had programs. Like apparently, from what I heard, you could get an apartment in like 6 months. At the time, I felt like that was too long. I was like, it's too long. But I knew eventually. Eventually I did, but.
Well, yeah. I just mean you were never sitting there thinking like this is never going to end.
Yeah,
I
was only 27, 28.
Okay.
So I was young enough. I still have time to, even if it takes some years to really be back.
Did they give you a lot of time? I mean, being homeless to evaluate your life at that point?
Oh yeah. Well, that whole year, even just being in the men's home, pretty much all I can do is think. Because I wasn't in the men's homes. You're part of a program. You're not allowed to work for 6 months. They want you to focus on like your Christian walk, which makes sense on paper. But so I couldn't work, and you're just in the home. And you just follow the schedule. There's a schedule, but you do get a lot of time to think.
What made you go to the Christian men's home?
Well, I heard I had one of the guys at the shelter. At that time, I was just on fire. I just wanted to be in Bible study all the time. I wanted to be in church all the time. I went to church as often as I could. I went to as many Bible studies as I could. They had some on campus that I would go, or on the shelter campus, I would take the bus to church. And so this guy, he said that he knew of a discipleship program, which was where you move into this men's home and it's supposed to be just Jesus, for 6 months.
Yeah.
And there was a schedule and there's Bible studies a lot. So I looked it up on the website, I called ahead, and it was like, it's what I wanted / needed at the time, was just to be like surrounded by Jesus and God and church and Bible study. That's all I wanted to do. So I went into that. And I wanted to, like I said, I wasn't ready to go into the world yet. I wanted to go deeper into my Christianity and biblical stuff. And so I went that. It was like a further humbling, if that makes sense. It doesn't really get much worse than the streets and the homeless shelter, but at least maybe socially or career-wise, it was more humbling by going into the men's home.
So it sounds like you were more in like, well, we call it, so when I was on the advisory for the mayor, we had to do a thing on homelessness. And we kind of had found that there's stages to it. So there's like stage 1, which is more like you're couch surfing, you're going shelter to shelter, because you're still staying somewhere. You're not really homeless.
Yeah.
But then there's like stage 2, which is actually on the street. Those are the people you see begging. Those are the people you see out there with their dogs and they're, and then you have stage 3, and that's where it's like, they look like a shriveled up prune out there. They don't look like a normal person because they're just out there in the sun. They're doing drugs, and it's a lot of people are in stage 3 that you see out there.
So having the experience of homelessness, so there's definitely different. There's your addiction people who are stuck in addiction. They can't get out of it.
Yeah.
And so of course my heart and prayers goes out to that. For sure, I can't imagine, being stuck in meth or, crack, kind of that lane.
Yeah.
So there definitely is that going on. But I did learn a lot of people, they just don't care. It's not even giving up. It's just, it's laziness.
Yeah.
Because I left the homeless shelter for 6 months because I was in the men's homes. And then I went back. I left the men's home. I went back to the shelter. I was basically going to start over. And some of the same people were still there doing the same thing. I was like, oh, you want to be here. Like, this is what you do. So
Dallas, my grandpa I was telling you about, who knew John McCain, he was running a hotel in Dallas. There are all these homeless people out here begging. And he told my dad, he goes, get in the car. So go and get in the car. He goes to 200 homeless people in downtown Dallas, says, you come in, I'll give you a hotel room probably as part of your payment for like 6 months until you can get on your feet to get you home if you work. 2 people showed up for an interview. Only one of them actually got hired, and he was fired in 2 months for doing drugs. So
that's tough. You know, drugs, they...
Yeah, well, I mean, my grandpa was like, you can't be doing drugs in the hotel.
Yeah,
That's just, like, he was like, I'm sorry, I want to give you a chance, but you can't be doing drugs in the hotel.
And sometimes that's what's interesting. I mean, just going off that story, you know, sometimes once that door opens, it's also...
If I'm remembering the story correctly, that is.
The door to prosperity is open, but so is... I mean, he has got a whole hotel room to himself. What? It's too easy to do drugs, right?
Yeah.
And that's what addiction and drugs does.
Yeah. Well, and that was the other thing, is it was like, it was laziness, because 240-something people, and not only 2 of them showed up for an interview.
And so now, of course, obviously the Bible says, so I still give, you know, I still do what I can.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of times, what's funny is probably the thing I do the most, a lot of times I have bananas. I eat a lot of bananas. And so I'll see a homeless, I give him my bananas a lot of times. But I am aware that guy could be lazy. That guy just, especially me knowing that there's a shelter with at least a form of bed, and then you can move into a bunk, and they have programs.
Well, half those guys are making more money hourly.
I've heard that as well. I've only been on the corner begging one time. I was trying to sell shirts, so it wasn't really begging, but...
Well, that's better than anything. I've always said that. Like, if you're out there trying to sell something, I'll buy something, because I respect that more than just sitting out there asking for money. At least you're trying to have some dignity. Like, you're trying to sell something, you're trying to hustle. And that's more respectable than, like, just give me money because I'm poor.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And, I've always said that. But no, I mean, when we worked my dad and I worked at the Mexican restaurant, bad area for homelessness. There was an abandoned bank. We came in one time, and there was a guy with his feet hanging off the side of the building.
Yeah.
And he was doing his thing with his pants off in the middle of this bank where everybody can see. And my dad called the police, and they're like, not the first time he's done it. We can't do anything. And it's like, what do you mean you can't do anything? He's up there like public indecency. Get him for public indecency. We can't do anything because as soon as we get him in the jail, he's just going to come right back.
Yeah.
So it was like, we had a homeless guy who was living on our roof for a week.
Yeah.
My dad goes up there and finds a tent and is like, what? The guy climbed the tree, got on the roof, pitched a tent, got his dog up there. Yeah. And it was like, bro, you know the dedication you have to have for all that? Like the insane dedication you have to be that lazy to literally set up a tent on a roof, climb a tree with your dog in hand, pitch the tent, live up on a roof. And it was like, bro, you could have came and asked for a job in that time. We would have hired you. When we owned restaurants, we hired a guy who was technically homeless, and we helped him get in an RV and get his own little thing going to where he was like in there, and we liked doing that, but it was like so hard to even find somebody who was willing to work out their way out of it.
Yeah.
And it was just, and he was a funny guy too. There was one time, he was in Wimberley. I don't know if you know where Wimberley is at.
Top of my head.
It's it's like if you're going north, a little way from Austin. But
like past Kyle.
yeah, it's like a real boutique-y kind of town. That's like what the square is. We had a restaurant in the square. You know, have you ever been?
I lived in San Marcos for a while.
Oh, okay.
She has her own fun pass too.
The river that runs in it. Mm-hmm. Somebody called us one time because he was bathing in the river, and he was like fully naked and everything. And they were like, we had to tell him, we were like, guy, you can't bathe naked in the river. No. So then there was another time that he was like, well, if I can't bathe in the river, and we found him bathing with our hose in the back. My dad was like, you can use the hose if it's early enough. And he's like, but you can't be naked.
Just
yeah.
That's something you would for sure see out there.
So we had that issue, and that was one of the things. But it was just like he had been, I think, homeless for so long that and I was younger, my interpretation was that he just thought that was normal.
Yeah.
Because that's all he knew for that long. So he was like, what's wrong with that? It's there.
Yeah.
But it was like a completely different mindset that being exposed to that when I was younger. I was like that's terrible.
Yeah.
Like you're exposed to that for so long that becomes the norm,
Yeah.
like bathing naked with a hose. That's
now I think about rock bottom is bathing in a big shower room with a bunch of naked dudes. That's what I was rock bottom, for sure.
So the military.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I would never be in the military. But
No, but that's how it is. You go in there and you
can't.
bathe. Remind me to tell you a story about that.
I'd rather you not. I'd rather you not.
My brother said it's pretty raw in there.
Yeah.
I was like,
That's
they're crazy.
And I remember, so you get a mat. So you start in the big room, or the bigger rooms, and you get a mat. As long as you're there at a certain time, you can get a mat. And you sleep on it. They give you a little, like a really thin sheet and a really thin, like 2 thin sheets.
I can't even get a blanket?
Yeah,
Damn.
And then eventually you can move into a bunk. They have these, it looks like jail. But there's the building. There's the building because it's a whole campus. At least.
Well, I've seen homeless dudes purposely get caught because they want to go to jail because they're like, well, it's better to be in jail because I get free meal, free food.
I've heard of that. And I've heard of that for years. Like even like in books, they'll talk about that. But I mean, it would smell like straight pee. And in the mornings, they wake you up at 5 a.m. So you really can't even get like a full night's sleep. And guys argue and yell, and some people are, like they're coming down off of stuff, they're up on stuff, and there would be like almost like a dozen mats, or at least under there'd be pee because guys had peed the bed overnight, and that's what it was like living at the shelter.
Yeah, that is rock bottom. Well, we're gonna move into a break, a short little bathroom break. You can get your pie crust and or your cobbler crust, and then we will be back and we're gonna talk about finding orthodoxy. Getting out of homelessness. We're going to talk about your love of the services. I know you always print out the services and are sitting there scratching them all down. Why did we do this?
I mean, just quick, because you do Kyrie eleison, and sometimes it starts English, starts Greek. So a lot of times I'll rewatch them. And so when they start Greek, I put Greek, and then when it switches to English, and then we'll go next week, and it'll be the opposite. I'm like, bro,
my girlfriend
this
and I
is not okay.
My girlfriend and I have been laughing because we always look to see, did he bring his binder this time?
I'll bring it. A big. I mean, I think I've said this already. It's just wanting to be able to teach her, because I could just be on my phone by myself. I don't care. But wanting her to know and see what's going on, and I can write on it. This means that. That means this. What's going to happen next is this, and you can just, it's like, not just her, but we can follow along.
Yeah. It makes sense.
I saw the last Saturday there was another family who had printed out stuff, and I was all jealous. I was like, I bet you got that idea from me.
They got better font.
I was like, I'm the first one to do that.
Yeah.
He's a lot better. It's not Times New Roman.
Yeah. Yeah, then we'll talk about the church structure. It's a little more structured than some of the non-denominational. We'll talk about the different callings. Like some people have a love of the icon. Some people have a love, different things. Apologetics. We'll get into intensity. Your tattoos. We're gonna get into the. Y'all are expecting. We're gonna talk a little bit about that, what that's like, and what you're expecting of the inspection. So we'll get into that a little bit after the break. So. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and pause this, and then we can move on from there.